Let's get started by showing you how to lay out pages in Affinity Publisher. So there's two approaches you can take. You can lay out a sequence of individual publication pages or a sequence of facing two-page spreads. So initially, this document that I have here is set up as individual pages sequentially, and I'll just show you how that was set up. So in the document setup, file new, I originally had unchecked facing pages, which means I get individual pages one after the other as opposed to facing pages. We'll look at that in a moment. So this particular document, I can add additional pages, and just by clicking this add pages option, and I'll add 2 pages after this blue coloured page, which I've intentionally coloured. And so I can click OK. And that gives us our 2 extra pages after the blue page. Now, if I happen to be working on this page 3 at the end there, and then I click this next spread button, I can also then create a page at the end. It already knows that we're on page 3, and then I can create an extra page to make it 4 pages. So that's 4 pages. Now I'll also be able to select this page, for instance, and then right click. I can do add pages, and it will know that from page 1 I can choose to add an extra page before the initial page. And you can see the blue colour there on the second page and the new page before. So now let's look at a second type of page layout which we mentioned, which was facing page. Now if I jump to a new document, this particular document is set up as a facing pages document. If I go to just show you how that was created and file new, I had this facing pages option checked. And again, I can check that in document setup once the document is loaded, just to show we have facing pages. So initially, because I only chose one page to add to start with and a default master page, it looks pretty much identical to the other approach. But if I now click the add pages option and I add 2 pages, you'll see now we have a different arrangement, and this is the facing pages or a two-page spread. And you can see the pages here, just here, the left spread and a right spread of a 2-page spread. So this means that we can lay out our document in a rather than as individual pages, but as kind of like a gatefold layout where we can design with a left and a right page to view. So I can add an additional page to this just by simply selecting this page here, clicking this arrow here, this page locator at the bottom, and then clicking OK. And just as before, I can add pages via right click, and we can add another 2 pages here before. I'll just undo that just to give you an idea of insertion before. Okay, so if we jump back to the original document, I just want to show you how you can control the spread setups once your pages are created. So with this particular example, I can choose a page, so page 1 there, and with the move tool enable, I can choose spread setup. And you can see that there are various options where you can apply to the current spread, all spreads, or selected spreads. So I'll just click on all spreads and click for selected spreads, where you can select either individual spreads or a sequence of spreads using the shift key. or I can select using the Command key on Mac or Control key on Windows to select individual non-adjacent spreads. But we'll just concentrate on the current spread for the moment, because what I want to do is to change this particular settings to, say, be landscape. So I can uncheck portrait for the current spread, click OK. And you see that the page 1 is now landscape. I'll just do an undo there. Now if I go back into spread setup and change to all spreads, I can change all of the page dimensions all at one time by changing this one to, say, 150 wide. I'll click OK. And immediately you'll see there that the blue fill that I put on a rectangle there on the page 2 there is showing with a white border because I've expanded the size of the page. So you get the general idea that spread setup allows you to change the orientation and the page size for all spreads or specific spreads or the current spread. You'd also be able to in here just change other options once you're in and got your document loaded, such as the scaling, how objects scale in relation to the resize of the page, and your margin control as well, which would override the document setup's margin controls. And the same applies to the facing page spread. You can come into a particular spread, go to spread setup, and then change the dimensions there for either an individual page or the whole spread itself. A couple of other final options on the Pages panel just to show you. The Section Manager, will do a video on section control later, but you'd also be able to duplicate any selected page. Just do that there right now. And one final point, if I just show you that if I select a page here, there's a selection border around there. Now that actually means at the moment that that page is selected, but it's not to view. If I double click the page 1 reference there, the page will come into view. You can see that down here, this is page 1. So anything with the grey border is the page currently viewing. Now if I wanted to jump to page 2 and 3, which is a spread, I can double click the page label there, and you're immediately onto page 2 and 3. But however, if I wanted to change the properties of page 1, even though page 2 and 3 is on display, I can select it, and it's got a blue border, which means it's selected, but not necessarily to view. I can right-click it and change the properties of that page without actually having it visible.